and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program. The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
Okay, good evening and welcome to another edition of welcome to another edition of Vox Populi, and welcome again to one and all, wherever you are and in whatever constituent part of the world you may be. So of course, my friends, there is just so much to discuss at any one time, quite a lot. But this evening, I want us to focus a little more on this ongoing matter concerning this vessel, this ghost vessel, the vessel, by whatever alias we want to call it this evening. So now, one of Shakespeare's favorite work, and it's a work I really like. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which given to fortune leads on a mighty sea. But upon such a tide we are now afloat, no pun intended. On the last occasion we spoke, I said to you, in fact I ended the show by declaring in a very bold manner that the name of the tug and the accompanying barge containing the material that have caused tremendous disquiet, not only to the physical environment, but to the livelihood of the fisher folks at Lambo. The curriculum schedule for the teachers and students at Lambo Anglican Primary School and the Scarborough Secondary School. I call the name. I told you. Again, remember I ended with the name? And at the time I called those names, last week, Wednesday it was, when I ended the show, and at the time I called those names were known to some, were not known to all, and I'll tell you as the program developed what I meant by that, what I mean by that, why I call those names as boldly as I called them then, and Today, I feel very, very vindicated that those names have since been confirmed. Yes, I feel very, very vindicated today that those names have since been confirmed. Now, my friends, so there was a lot of disruptions. And we saw, of course, there was disruption, as I said before, to the Lambo Anglican School, the Scarborough Secondary School, not leaving out the vehicular traffic along the portion of the Milford Road. And everybody know, when I'm in Tobago, I travel. And when you travel, most of the car walking straight or across use that route because you get not only that less traffic, but there's also that beautiful scenic coastline. You drive down there to Lambo by the beach house, and then from the beach house you From the beach house, you skirt on to the Claude Noel Highway, you're there at Hawkins Cure, and a very, very scenic route. Um, because of the wave turbulence and so, part of that road was disrupted. So there were disruptions. There were disruptions, I told you when in my opening, there were disruptions to the fisher folks. Now, what were the disruptions the fisher folks could suffer? Chiefly and mainly, it is the plying of their trade. It is the plying of their trade. It's the Lenten season. We are now in the Lenten season. And I hope some of you doing and maintaining your fasting and praying and so. Now, I never thought I would live to see the day. Pope would say, eat what you want, drink what you want, and do what you want, because Lent really represents something. I never thought I would live to see the day when a vicar of Christ, the Pope, the Holy Father, will declare, eat what you want, drink what you want, and enjoy your Lent all the same. But we are in the Lenten season. And the Lenten season, traditionally, we impose upon ourselves some restrictions and so. And some of those restrictions, of course, are abstaining from meat. And fish is a big diet. It's a very popular staple in the Lenten season. And having said that, so Lenten season, it's the Christmas period for fisher folks. Well, that have been disrupted by the guys plying their fishing trade and so in the Lambo district. And then, of course, there's the Jesus Christ. Then, of course, there is the interruption in the delivery. Because if they can't maintain their delivery to their, if they cannot maintain their delivery to their customers, their client base and so, then what would happen is that there'll be a migration of their client base. And if their client base migrate to another fishing depot, another spot that provide, sell fish and so, and those clients accustomed to their, whether it be by ease of traffic, price, ambience, convenience, and so, then this incident of the oil spill has the very strong possibility to debilitate the fishing trade of the folks there in Lambo. And of course, there's the issue now. So even if they are selling, they won't get the volume of fish sold as they were accustomed to. So then you have the issue now of unsold fishes. And that can cause an unmanageable surplus on the hands of those fisher folks, which ought to give rise, in my respectful view, to an intervention by the Department of Fisheries in the THA, that is to say, training and partnership in matters of storage, etc., should now form part of the new dialogue. And then there is of course the Lambo Primary School. Now, common entrance is approaching, and it is crunch time for what can be described, though it ought not to be, a life-changing experience for most of these children. So a relocation, even if temporary, must be and must have caused some disruption for them mentally at minimum. Then there is the Scarborough Secondary School. The same rationale operates, as I outlined before, with Lambo Primary. But in this case, it's for the purposes of CXC and other related and antecedent examinations. So I did make the bold declaration of the name at the end of the show last week, when nobody made it. And it's important for me to say some things about that. Guys, can you put up that picture for me, please? It would be described as the first pick. So So the tug is Solo Creed. The tug is Solo Creed, and the badge is Coolie Boy. Right? Come back to me, please. Hello. Hello. Don't do it. Right. Now, when I deliver to you the name of the culprits on the last occasion, now I don't want you to get disquieted at all, especially the owners of Tobago, because I use the word culprit. I remember appearing before Justice Devines. He's now deceased. And, well, we were still operating at the virtual level and so. And his first comment, because I was struggling to get on, not very techno-savvy and so I was struggling to get on. And Justice Devines said, Andre Devines he was, where is the culprit? Well, who tell you say that? I went on the radio, I was with Power 102 then. I cussed that man for 10 months. Every day I go on the radio, there was 5 minutes of cussing for him because where's the culprit? And so I felt that he was biased and you hear the case yet, but you started with where the culprit at. I cuss him. The man died and I can't cuss the dead. He's there too. But I cuss the priest that buried him. I cuss everybody. I cuss who cry in the funeral because he described me in opening matters. Where is the culprit? 10 months after, I decided to take a look at the dictionary because I was advised to do so, to take a look at the dictionary. And it was there I discovered that the man may not have been saying anything bad. All the man simply meant was, where is the source of the trouble? So when I say culprit, I mean the source of the trouble. So when I delivered to you the names of the source of the trouble on the last occasion, I can recall it was at the end of the show. There was no discovery, no announcements by the government, led by Dr. Rowley, a convenient Tobagonian, or his man Friday, Stuart Young. What we got were no better what they announced, we are no better for it. No better at all for it. Because what they have done is to put out a very... No, you're not doing that now. Stop it. Right. What they have done was to put out a very, very wishy-washy amalgamation of acronyms. That is what they did. Put a whole set of acronyms. You all remember that press release? I'm not sure if the guys have it still there from last week. I certainly don't. But the press release put out by the Rowley government cabinet in particular, and to be specific, the Ministry of National Security was, this is what they put out. The TTCG conducted some investigation with the GCG, and they spoke to the IMPACS, who told them something about the IMS, and they told them something against about the MLP, and it was an obscene amalgamation of acronyms. And I asked myself, what was the purpose of that? And surely the purpose of that was to cause the ordinary man who have to read that to stop reading it. Because from the time you start with all that level of acronyms, then to the ordinary man, you were not speaking to him. So what they were able to achieve there was to get a significant number of the population to disengage themselves from following this matter. That is what that press release set out to achieve. And for this incident in Trinidad, I rather suspect that press release achieved its objective. So, but what is important and important is that the Chief Secretary had to bemoan the point that he felt as if information was not forthcoming to him as the executive leader of the Island Affairs. And as he was in possession of some information that provided the name of the tug vessel and the badge almost immediately after the distressed vessel, and was discovered leaking the troubling material et al. Into the waters, and well, we know what happened with that. Put up back number 1 for me. Keep it up there for a while. Come back to me. Come back to me. Now, I am advised, and I have ample reason to believe same, that what I have just shown you I can be wrong in this instance, but what I have just shown you may be the same information that the Chief Secretary may have had sight of. Because that information was sent to me on the 10th of February. That would have been the Saturday, and so it was a Saturday. I remember it well. So that was sent to me on the 10th of February. Having received it, I took note of it. I did some inquiries, and I was able to confirm that, in fact, the tug vessel's name was, and it's there, and the badge was Coolie Boy. Just put it up back there again for me for the final time. Let me say something about it. Right, so the tug vessel was Solo Creed, and the badge was Coolie Boy. I had that information on the 10th of February. It was very long after, come back to me, it was very, 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 very long after, the wishy-washy press release issued by the Minister of National Security, Ethelbert. It was long after Ethelbert put out the name of the tug, which is Solo Creed, but carefully chose to omit. I think I'm frozen. I may or may not be. But he carefully chose to omit the name of the badge. But you see, while they believe that this is PNM country, this is certainly not PNM region, and it is definitely not PNM world. So as a result of that, when it comes to matters of maritime affairs, there are international institutions persons can access to conduct certain inquiries. Right? There are some institutions, international bodies and so, that can be accessed to institute certain inquiries. And that is why I call on the government tonight. I call on tonight to come clean with the population. Why did you throw Solo Creed under the waves? No pun intended, in fact. But you are voiding the particulars and the specificity. Right? You are voiding the particulars and the specificity of Coolie Boy. But we'll get to that, because I'll have to forward to you guys. I'll forward to you to play it for me in a while. And you don't have to worry. You could play it. And let me just make it clear. You could play it, because if I was able to download it. I would have downloaded it, and I have the same information based on my investigation. So the point is that is why I said I feel vindicated when Nairi Alfonso, a prominent and international, world-renowned, I know that is a repeat, but it's for emphasis, maritime attorney at law, is saying what I said, is Solo Creed and Coolie Boy. I know the owners, but again, these international agencies that do these investigations and assist with these inquiries, they are not unique to Skippy. So other persons have found it, and I lose no marks, I lose no face. I think it's the right thing to do, unlike Liz Williams. I will give credit to another source who obtained information, because it's not about me and it's not about fame and all that. It's about doing the right thing because it is the right thing to do. That is what I am about. So lo and behold, after the high-level entourage made their trip to Tobago, led by Raul himself, the convenient Tobagonian, an announcement was made by the central government, only identifying the name of the town. Some are saying, not me, some, not me, I'm not saying it, some are saying though, that the information on the barge is known by the central government, but it may not be in their interest to reveal at this time, as they may need enough time to protect the senior member of cabinet associated with it. Some are saying that. Skippy not saying that, but some people are saying that. You will get a flogging on television. Behave yourself. Come. Love you. Right. So, I'm not saying that, but people are saying that. Right? I'm not saying that. People are saying that. And this is important, because if everybody getting information from reputable maritime authorities, where one would expect the Coast Guard and whoever investigating these matters, and let me tell you something, bear with me, because I'm going to drop a bombshell here tonight. Bear with me. One would expect the Coast Guard and all these other maritime authorities and so to pray to these source. If I go to Tobago and matters of culture and so, I am not wasting time and sit down in a pub and talk to my friends. My friends are not cultural people. There is a cultural technocrat in Tobago. His name is Jesse Taylor. I call Jesse Taylor directly and say, these are some questions I have related to matters of culture. So there is always an authority. There is always the source. I don't know who talking to do their inquiries, but it seemed to me as if they're talking to ghosts to make determinations on this ghost ship. But let us move on. This is going somewhere. This is going somewhere. Then cocaine. We get over that yet. We get over where Solo Creed, and I'll tell you where. We get over where Solo Creed. We get over who owned Coolie Boy, but cocaine wash up. Now the cocaine had Studley Park Beach, no pun intended, Strawberry Beach, Pigeon Point Beach, Lambo Beach, Castara Beach, Bacalet Beach, Fort Granby Beach, Turtle Beach, or any other part of the island's easily accessible coastlines to wash ashore, but it chose Cove in the exact location where Coolie Boy keep leaking its mischief, its disturbance, and its sanctioned fuel upon us on a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week moment. Love you. Coolie Boy keep doing that. And while Coolie Boy doing that, cocaine wash up, right? Cocaine show up. But while the cocaine show up, the police leadership in Tobago said there is no connection between the both events. And as if it was not enough, Talbot went to Parliament and repeated there is no correlation between the two events. It was then, after hearing, what the fella name? Senior Superintendent Kirk. And I have no issue with Mr. Kirk. I think Mr. Kirk is a fine gentleman, a professional. Right? Mr. Kirk is a fine gentleman, a professional. For all the time I've known him in Tobago, I don't know him personally, but know him as a police officer doing his job. He has been without scandal, stand up to scrutiny. So this is not about Senior Superintendent Kirk at all. This is not about him. This is not even about Assistant Commissioner of Police Colin Caesar, who I find is a fine gentleman and a community-oriented individual and a professional at what he does. I heard them saying there is no correlation. Then I heard a Talbot going in Parliament and saying there is no correlation. To myself, I exclaim in exhaustion, Lordy, Miss Claudie, you can't make pups. Because when the police and its line minister make those kind of statements to us as citizens, what they are saying, in fact, what they offered to me was an explanation for the absence of any and all investigative elements of crime fighting. Explanation to me why we are swimming in a sea of unsolved murders and undetected crime, which by the way, if left unabated, will result in increased decadence. It will result in increased decadence, and even the most rigid of law-abiding citizens among us will start taking matters into their own hands. Because surely, as night follows day, Hines, Hazel, and Kirk must have heard of the term empirical evidence. This is concerned with a proposition is evidence. That is what it's concerned about. Empirical evidence is concerned with that proposition is evidence. That is to say, what supports or counters a proposition that is constituted by or accessible to common sense or sense, the five senses, experience, or experimental procedures. Empirical evidence is the central importance factor to the sciences, and it plays a role in various other fields, like epistemology and law. Now in the pub, in the bar, in the snacket, right? In the snacket, in the maxi taxis, the street corners, on the blocks. What would be said about empirical evidence is that if it walk like a duck, if it sung like a duck, then it must be a duck. Now, let us then consider the following proposition. And I think at this time it is appropriate for me to take a 2 minutes break and I return. We will return. 2 minutes break and we return. And when we return, we are going to consider a proposition.
The Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development has relocated its Crown Point office to Glen Road in Scarborough to better serve you, our clients. Our main office is located at the corner of Glen Road and Glen Road Branch Number 1, the building formerly occupied by Coastal. Our grant and electrical inspectorate services can be accessed at Number 2 Montessori Drive in Glen Road, Building 1 and 2.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show. Live more.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
the Standard, and today we're launching High. It's our newest brand that Standard is launching, and it's where luxury meets affordability. We're very proud of this brand. It's taken some time to get the right collection in place, and we're also going to continue to improve on our collection as time goes by and we listen to our customers more. We've changed our suppliers for this collection to European suppliers, so you're going to get that European finish. We've been very pleased by some of the results that we've been seeing in terms and response to it in the market, and we're so glad to bring it to Tobago and show Tobago what Standard could, grow with them as well.
It's not just about looking good or having materials that are easily cleaned or sustainable materials, because the important thing about this particular collection is that it is quality. It is meant to last, and it lives up to the Standard name about never beating on quality and price. This furniture particularly, especially our outdoor line, which ranges from fiberglass, plastic types of outdoor stools, outdoor chairs, even the outdoor furniture, it is built to last.
That's the importance with High, right? It's not only looking good, it's going to feature things that make your life easier, and it's not too damaging on the pocket. That's important for us.
This furniture fits the lifestyle of Tobago, of the Tobago customer, of the Tobago guest. It is the perfect type of furniture for you.
Yes, folks, and so we're back. So I was telling you about a proposition, yes? Let us consider the following proposition. What happened? Let us consider the following proposition. Mr. Batman contracted Mr. Robin for use of his tug Solo Creed to tow a barge coolie boy of 5,000 metric tons of sanctioned black market fuel from Mr. Penguin in Venezuela to Mr. Joker in Guyana. Right? Let me repeat that. Single parenting is easy, but don't worry. She will get big. Hold it. Nice. No, this is kind of overdoing it. I know you're going to have to cry just now, eh? So, Mr. Batman, no, you're being rude now. Stop it. Come on. Stand up here. Yeah. Right. When it tears. All right. Let me take a short break. 1 minute. Are you good? You're good. Take. No, you have to do that, right? So Mr. Batman contracted Mr. Robin for use of his tug Solo Creed to tow a barge coolie boy carrying 5,000 metric tons of sanctioned black fuel from Mr. Penguin in Venezuela to carry to Mr. Joker in Guyana. Let us use that proposition. Now, firstly, the thread that runs between the parties and their activities is illegality. That is the thread that runs through everything here. It's the illegality. Therefore, what then prevents Mr. Robin, who has been given the green light to violate the laws of Trinidad and Tobago by 1, turning off his vessel's transponder, 2, using the territory, knowing he's doing so outside of the requisite laws and maritime regulations, 3, unsupervised by an enforcement authority, the Coast Guard, the Police Marine Unit, North Coast Station, and so. 4, confident enough to determine if there are difficulties, he can abscond the territory undetected. And 5, is unlikely to be held liable for his dastard act or acts. Now, what does that mean in this proposition? It means, my friend, is that what I have just outlined to you is a trafficker. And in this specific instance, and for this specific discussion, is a drug trafficker's paradise. That's what I've just outlined here to you. Now, the drug weighs approximately, as reported, I'm not in the business of finding, weighing, confirming drugs. I'm not in that business. There are people in that business who have failed us all the same, but the drug weighed approximately 1.109 kilograms, and has an estimated street value of, here it is, $515,000, $515,285.76. Oh God, you know, he's my world, you know. Well, forgive me, it's my little world, but the other people in the world, man, see, other people in the world, right? But other people in the world, yeah, but you still my world. So that is what? $15,285. $15,285 plus $500,000. Now, I don't know if you know, but tonight I'll tell you. It cost $3 US for a kilogram of cocaine. 1 kilo cost $3,000 US in Venezuela, which when sold here in Trinidad has a street value of $500,000, $500,000. So the $15,285, what that really represents is the value of the 0.109 kilos. Now, if this is sold in the United States or in Europe, the UK in particular, because of the demand, the street value of 500 TT automatically becomes 500,000 US, 500,000 pounds, or 500,000 euros. I watch you, or 500,000 euros, because it is not how the drug trade operate. They don't convert currency via the normal exchange that you or me would facilitate. You know, we'd use the bank rates and the exchange, and so those are the things that we will use. But while we use that in the drug trade and on the street, that is not what is used. It's just how it's really done. There is a dollar is a dollar, right? That is how it's really done. A dollar is a dollar. You know, they say a dollar is a dollar anywhere. Well, we know where that came from. So a dollar is a dollar. So you get it at peppercorn rate in Venezuela, the cocaine that is 3,000. The cocaine that is 3,000 US for a kilo. You come back to Trinidad, because what they'll sell you there in Venezuela, let me just see if I can break it down. What they'll sell you there in Venezuela is raw cocaine. When you come back to Trinidad, there are additives added to it, and so for it to become what we know as crack. And then, of course, when it's sold on the street, it has this street value. A kilo has a street value of $500,000 TT dollars. But if you have to find a way to smuggle it, traffic it, and so to another jurisdiction, whether it be anywhere in Europe, the US, or Aruba, then the value is calculated based on the exchange rate. The street value here in Trinidad, you see the peppercorn rate in Venezuela is a separate arrangement. When you carry it back to your country, whatever is your street rate there, that is the street value anywhere. And so I think I've properly explained that. Now, we are to believe that the smugglers, the traffickers, already in progress of their trade, they're already in the middle of their trade, already in the middle of a massive illegality, transporting sanctioned fuel from Venezuela, trafficking, not transporting, trafficking sanctioned fuel from Venezuela, using the coolie boy, and what's the other one? The coolie boy and the tug, the coolie boy and the solo creed. Using that, thank you, using the solo creed and the coolie boy, they're already engaged in the illegality. Yeah, come back to me. Already engaged in the illegality. We are to believe now that while already in progress of the illicit trade, as before, they did not capitalize on an opportunity given to them by the central government to do what traffickers do, and that is to traffic. We have to believe that because Collie Caesar, Kirk, and Fitzgerald Hines said that. Okay, well, why go tell them? Go along. Why go tell them? Go along. You don't normally behave like this. Why are you doing it tonight? Can you behave yourself, please? 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 Nice. Yes. So, what for? And I'm using empirical evidence, and I'm saying that Kirk and Collie Caesar and Fitzgerald Hines are not enough to tell me that the drugs was not related. I want it better than that. You see, because there's something I want to tell you all, and let me just say it now. I take very, very careful note, extremely careful note I take, that lifting the tears or escalating the tears and so is not for the chief secretary. I take note of that. Right? It is not for the chief secretary. It is for the central government. Because remember the national oil spill policy I spoke about on the last occasion. And when I spoke about it on the last occasion, I made the point and I said to you, why is the THA, why doesn't the THA has it on this national oil spill policy if it's national? And if it's national, it must include Trinidad and it must include Tobago. So the tier, how the tiers go up, is really not in the THA's remit. But hello? Don't do that. But I take note that the tier was tier 1. I think we are at tier 2. So tier 1 is when it's in its local jurisdiction. 2 is when it becomes have been declared to be a national incident and so. But tier 3 is when international assistance and international partners and so come in. And I take note, I take very serious note that the actual government, the Rowley's administration, is not raising the tier to tier 3. And I suspect it is not because of the magnitude of the incident. What I rather suspect is that if they invite international partners, the international partners will conduct an investigation that is beyond their remit. So in other words, the international partners will locate Coolie Boy's owner. The international partners will locate Solo Creed and their owners. And those people will be made to pay the penalties they ought to be paying. And if these international agencies come in and start doing their work and locating this tug and locating the owners of the vessels and all of that, then somebody might call somebody naming Port of Spain in Trinidad. So you're getting plenty hue and cry, plenty song and dance, but you're not getting any tier 3 declaration at all. I take notes on that. I take serious note on that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I take serious notes on that. And so I am prepared to declare, this. But let me say this and I'll make my declaration after. That Creed and Coolie Boy and the oil spill disaster in Tobago, I am telling you, Trinidad and Tobago in particular, it was an act of terrorism. It was an act of terrorism. Or let me say it with a little more confidence. It was an act of terrorism. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It was an act of terrorism. What are the elements that must be included in terrorism? The elements, they're not confined to these, but the elements must be mysterious. It must be mysterious. And so acts of terror, how you define terrorism, is that it must be mysterious and it must achieve its objectives. Now, what are some of the objectives? Well, I think being mysterious is understood. We don't know where Solo Creed gone, and they're still not telling us. But remember, I tell you, I have something to play for you. And they're still not telling us who own what those people name? Who owns Boy? They're not telling us that. So there's mystery in who owns Coolie Boy. A lot of mystery. But what are some of the objectives that were achieved? And some of the objectives that were achieved are: 1, they were able to prove that the intelligence community, the special branch, the SIA, the SSA, the Army Intelligence Unit, the Coast Guard Intelligence Unit, the Customs Intelligence Unit, they have failed. That is an objective achieved, demonstrating that the intelligence community have failed. The breach was successful. The breach was successful. They were able to achieve successful breach, and they were also able to achieve failed surveillance. So the surveillance also failed. They were able to achieve that objective, demonstrating that the surveillance failed. What were some of the surveillance that failed? The marine surveillance, the aerial surveillance, and of course the coastal surveillance. So the marine, of course, would be the Coast Guard. The aerial, of course, would be the Air Guard and the radar. The coastal surveillance, of course, would be this marine branch. I forget what they call them, you know. But there is this unit. They have this unit. There's been some dinghies and so. But they have this unit, and they are out there and they do their things and so. So they have that. They failed. In addition to them failing, the police patrol around the coast have failed also. In addition to them failing, the North Coast Station that is responsible for marine traffic, maritime traffic, just like how we have the towers at the airport in maritime affairs, and so we have in maritime affairs, and so we have the North Coast Station. Yes, they have failed also. So the surveillance have failed. And then of course, another element, it attracted international attention and communication. And then of course, there's the element of disruption. It disrupted economic life. It disrupted environmental life. It disrupted social life. It was a ghost vessel. We didn't know where it come from. We know it gone. It was a ghost, that is Solo Creed. It was a ghost vessel, and that is an indicator. It was a ghost ship, ghost vessel. Ghost ships are known for trafficking in sanctioned fuel, arms and ammunition, humans, narcotics, and then more importantly, they did not use the normal route. Speaking of the normal route, I want to put up that as I hail to my end. I want to put up that. So put up, I have sent for you guys a map of Guyana and Venezuela. Let me look at the one I have. I want to see it because there's a red marking. There are some markings on it I want to point out. And could you just show it in a way where I could see it, please? No, not that one. I'll get back to that one. The first one. Is there a way you could split the screen so I could see both me and that? But I think it's seeing me is what is obstructing me seeing the map. I suspect the public is seeing. But if the public is seeing, let me just say this. Yeah, sure. Yes, come and read the map. Read the map. Yeah. Show me Guyana. So you would see I have circled Guyana and I've circled Venezuela. And there are two asterisks when you look at, you would see Atlantic Ocean. Right, so you'd see I've circled Venezuela and I've circled Guyana. And you would see two asterisks with a long red line in the blue part, which is the Atlantic Ocean. Just for the point I wish to make to you, point out to you, there's Guyana and there's Venezuela. So if this was legitimate trading, again, I think this is very self-explanatory. This requires no explanation. You see where Venezuela is, you see where Guyana is. So if there was legitimate trade, nothing illegal, nothing underhand, nothing nothing illegal and all of that, then it would be very, very easy for this to be so. If you have to transport things in a legal manner from Venezuela to Guyana, you have seen Guyana a circle. You see Venezuela circle. You would see the long asterisk line that I've drawn there. All right, you would see that. Two asterisk with a long line. That is Venezuela, that is Guyana. I want to move on now to the other photograph, the other map that I have found. This one is with Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. We just had it a while ago. Right. You would see on that map, I have the marking A and I have the marking B. So if you would see also international waters and in open bracket HS close bracket, that stands for high seas, right? International water, next to B. Follow B and go back to A. Follow the line from B, go back to A. Remember last week I was telling you that in Venezuela, when we coming through the Bocas, so right next to A and Trinidad, you'll see the Trinidad thing there. You'll see some small spots. That is the Bocas, right? And that is known when we were in school doing geography and social studies in primary, geography in secondary. We were taught that that area there is known as the Dragon's Mouth. How much of you remember that? Right? How much of you remember that? So that area there is known as the Dragon's Mouth. That is A. So you would see A plus. These markings now are in blue. I'm not sure we're showing on the screen, right? But you will see by A plus a line to my left. I'm not sure, but my left will be your right. And my right, which might be your left, with two arrows, with a line and two arrows. You would see those are the international high seas watermarks. So if you come from Venezuela, the arrow to my left is where you ought to be going, or the arrow to my right is where you ought to travel up on the northern side of Tobago until you meet out there what is known as the you'll see Atlantic Ocean. So until you meet outside there where you have that massive Atlantic superhighway, local fishermen will tell you the vessels they see, the ships they see, not vessels, the ships they see passing there, they describe them to be monsters. That is to demonstrate how big they are and so, right? But let us follow the A to B that should be marked in red. The A to B marked in red. That is the shortcut. So you come from Venezuela and you see the Bocas here. Remember I was telling you all last week. So when you pass in the Bocas, that landmass you see there, that is Venezuela after about two islands. So it's there two other landmass and then the third one is Venezuela. Well, that's how it is. So you come from there. Instead of going my left or my right, you decide to pass through Trinidad and Tobago in the main territorial waters. We come up the Trinidad north coast, the intention was to pass the Tobago south coast, and then you go out to the Atlantic. Now, I just want you to bear in mind, so guys, if we could put up the two photos now for me as I hasten to my end. So I think I've showed you what the sea route between Venezuela and Guyana. And I've showed you the sea route that includes Trinidad and Tobago. See if we could put up the boat side by side. And you tell me Trinidad and Tobago, and in Tobago in particular, if you were involved in legitimate business and nothing illegal and had to transport fuel from Venezuela to Guyana, which route would you have used? See if we can. You show the both of them and you tell me which route would you have used. And so I submit, right? So it is my submission, therefore, right? It is my submission, therefore, that it was not the normal route between Guyana and Venezuela. And what we must ask ourselves, why? Because it is not the normal route. So if any accident ought to have happened, it ought to have happened on the map I've shown you between Venezuela and Guyana, not quite up Tobago. So there is much more in the mortar beside the pestle, and that is why I declared it to be an act of terrorism. Now one would wonder why would somebody do that? I don't know. I am fathoming now as a suggestion, and I will develop it on the next occasion. And preferably I'll be in Tobago in the studio. I'm going to Tobago, but I have no behavior and I'm doing the show at home. Yes. That is what I said. You can say what you want. No, right. No. So, and I'll develop on it then. Why use that route? I don't know. I am suggesting, and it seemed to me, that that was a deliberate act, a very deliberate act. And I don't know. This is where I'm not saying now, I am speculating now. What I'm saying now is pure speculation. But it seemed to me that a group of persons in Port of Spain who has interest in an electoral victory in Tobago may have launched an attack upon us to show that the THA can manage it by default. And they would ride in as knights in shining armor. They would ride in as the savior. They would ride in as the ones with the capability to get it done. And that may sway some votes to the PNM side. That is pure speculation for now. Because when you look at the two routes, if it's coming from Venezuela to go Guyana, fuel in ships don't cost a penny. What the hell you come up Tobago for? It's an abnormal route to transport material between Guyana and Venezuela. And so we must look at that. But so let me end there. Except all is not well about that. And I could with full assurance that coolie boy sinking there in Cove and creating the disaster that created in our space there in Tobago, I could say with bold assurance, it was no accident. And so the investigation now must be focused on who did it. I'm very sure it was no accident. The investigation now must be about who did it and why. Right? So I'll do some work on that. If those investigation takes me nowhere, I'll be the first to come back to you and report to you that those investigations took me nowhere. But in the meantime and in between time, it seemed to me as if it's bad sinking season in Tobago. So I want to end with this. Guys, could you put up as much of those pictures as you can, or just put them up and run them, and I'll make my final comment after they have been run. Well, after they have been viewed and played and so. We'll be real naughty tonight. We'll be real naughty tonight. Yeah, so I've sent them for you. Just if it's difficult to put them up, I could deal with it next week. So just send a message and let me know, and so we could bring this to an end. Yeah, right, here they are. Yeah, just run them. So it seemed to be bad sinking season in Tobago. And for the avoidance of doubt, these are barges up there in the Studley Park, Blenheim area, vehicles, sand, materials, and so on board. And I am making no allegations. I am leveling no so I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that I don't believe in, neither do I subscribe to coincidence. There is no such thing called coincidence. There's no such thing called coincidence. And I don't know. I call on the maritime authorities all the same to pay some focus on this situation here at Blenheim, Studley Park area, and report to us matters of, again, I'm making no allegation, I'm making no accusation, I'm leveling no charges against it. I see it as a mere accident, but we want an incident from the authorities so responsible for these matters. Why it happened? What occurred? Why it happened? What occurred? How can it be avoided in the future? Was all the regulations followed? Did it occur as a breach of any regulation? These are things we need to know. And at the end of the day, you all say what you want about Tobago. Tobago is a real place. Tobago is a real place. So barges just can't be having difficulties there in the island and no explanation given. There must be investigations into this. We ought to know. In fact, I demand to know what is that about, what have caused it, how can it be resolved, how can it, were regulations followed, is that a legitimate legal port for the purpose of operating barge and tugs, and so. These are things we wish to know. It can only be done by the relevant authority. I don't care who the barge belongs to. And who the barge belongs to should not determine who that barge in Studley Park belongs to, should not determine the reality with which such an investigation should occur. And I hope that it's investigated quickly, because you all will not want me to investigate it myself. I'll prefer the professionals investigate it. Those in the know in maritime, those in the know in matters of maritime affairs are saying, you can't just wake up in the morning, pick a tug and a barge, and move things from point A to point B. It's not a taxi you're running, it's not a pickup you're driving. There are some regulations that must be applied. That is what those in the main, in matters of maritime management, have said to me. And so again, I call for an urgent intervention and investigation and the report must be made known to us on that Studley Park blending incident. So folks, thank you for having me in your company. Come, get up and say bye-bye. May I apologize for Job. She won't. I'm not sure what happened though. She was a bit miserable and disruptive tonight and messy, but very good. Very good. So say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Give a kiss. Give a kiss. Give a kiss. Give a kiss. Send kiss. All right, so good night. Have a safe night. And we'll speak again next week. As I said, so my point tonight is it's an act of terrorism. I declare that both and with great surety. That was no accident. The who and why is where we will go further. And by next week, we'll be able to have some discussions on it. God bless you and good night. Thank you.
And opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.